Hello and welcome to another video brought to you by AIP Solutions. In today's video, we will be going over how to use PowerShell to automate Excel, specifically loading a Microsoft Excel workbook, selecting the sheet to work on, targeting specific cells, creating/altering new cell values, styling the cells, merging cells, and some other common operations. This is intended to help you in some automation tasks that you may be manually doing but can be automated using PowerShell. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section or email at hello@aipsolutions.tech. Let's begin. So, the first thing you want to make sure you have installed is Microsoft Excel. PowerShell is native to Windows and we will be calling the application itself, so you need to have it installed. Once that is verified, our first line will be a call to create a new COM object calling the Excel application. And we do that with this line of code. Essentially, it's a new object-com object excel.application, and we assign it to the variable Excel object. Essentially, we will be launching Excel application in the background. Next, this is the directory we will be working on. It contains the data.xlsx file, and if we open it up, you can see it contains 6 rows of data on our sheet 1 tab, and the other sheets are empty. So if we want to target this particular spreadsheet file and this sheet, we need to open the file, select the appropriate worksheet. It's a layered approach using PowerShell. So we have our variable Excel object, which is the Excel application. Next, we are going to open the workbook, and we open the workbook by calling workbooks.open and referencing the Excel object to do it. So Excel objects.workbook.open and our file location, and we assign that to the variable Excel workbook. From there, we target the actual worksheet. And to do that, we're going to reference our Excel workbook variable calling sheets.item with the name of the sheet in question, which is sheet 1, and we assign that to the variable Excel worksheet. So now our variable Excel worksheet is specifically the sheet 1 in our target data.xlsx file. So now we have this sheet targeted. Now say we need to get the number of rows in this particular worksheet. That's simple enough using Excel worksheet.useRanged.rows.count. And this is how that line would look. Excel worksheet.useRange.rows.count. So let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to close the file and run this one line at a time. That's our Excel object. We're going to reference our XLX file. Okay, we're going to target our specific worksheet. And if I run this, we get 6. And because this application is open in the background, we're going to get this read-only prompt, which is fine. So we can open it in read-only. And yes, we can see it has 6 lines of data. Now let's say we need to get the value in a particular cell. So let's reference A1 for instance. How do we get this particular value? Well, normally we reference a cell by the column and then by the row. For example, A, which is the column in our row 1. So we would target this cell by saying A1. Similarly, in PowerShell, but instead of the column being sorted alphabetically, you also reference it numerically. So if we want A1, it would be essentially column 1, row 1, and that would look like this. We reference our Excel worksheet dot columns dot item 1, which is our column number 1, dot rows dot item 1, which will be our row 1, dot text. So if we were to run this, we would get name, which is in our A1 cell. Now, let's say we want to change the value in this cell. Well, similarly to getting the value, we would run the same line, but instead of specifying to a text field, we just assign it directly to the columns.item 1, rows.item 1. Now, if we run this, it's in memory, but the workbook isn't actually saved. So we will have to save the workbook to see this change. And for us to do that, we would run the call on Excel workbook.save. And this is actually going to save our changes. So if we run this and close the file and reopen it, we can see A1 got changed to the value of test instead. So if we need to get all the sheets in the workbook, how would we do that? Well, it's a simple enough command. We call our Excel workbook dot sheets, and this would list all our sheets. If we run this, we get our sheet names with a lot more data. So let's make this more readable. In a quick for each loop, let's return just the name. Okay, we get sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3. Now, how do we add a new worksheet? We would do that by calling the Excel workbook.worksheets.add. And this will just add a new worksheet in incremental order. If we already have sheets 1 through 3, the next one will be sheet 4. If we add this and run our for each loop again, we get a fourth sheet displayed. Well, we don't want our for sheet to be named sheet 4. Let's change it to something else. How do we change the name? Well, let's assign a new variable and we will call it new sheet. And we will reference sheet 4 and just as if, how we have done it earlier. Excel workbook.sheets.item, the name of our sheet, which is sheet 4, and we say new sheet.name is equal to, let's call it test 4. If we run this, and if we run our for loop again, we get test 4 instead of sheet 4. And that's how you change the name of the worksheet. Now, after we save our workbook, it's still open in the background. So for us to close and quit Excel, we need to run 2 more lines of code. On our Excel workbook, we will call .close and specify true in parentheses. And we quit the Excel application by calling .quit on the object. So this will close our workbook and then quit Excel. So if we close and reopen the document, we see our new worksheet. So that's dealing with a workbook that was already created, and we need to manipulate that already created workbook in some way and extract data. Now let's say we want to create a brand new workbook and we want to add some data to it. So I will show you how to do that. So we want to create our Excel object just as we have done before. I will copy and paste the code. This will launch the Excel application. Then we will create a new workbook referencing our Excel object by calling the add function. And then we will add the worksheet. Let's specify the name of the worksheet to be AIP. Then let's reference the worksheet by a variable called worksheet. And let's look at a different way to reference a particular cell. We will reference our worksheet, then dot cells, then dot item, and its column first, and then the row. We assign it to, let's say, title in our A1 cell. Then let's save it just as we did before. We'll copy our same directory and call it data2.xlsx. Then let's close and quit Excel. Okay, let's run this and see what damage it does. Okay, we ran it and got no errors. So if we look in our directory, we now have a file called data2.xlsx. So if we open that up, we can see in our A1 cell we have the word title and the name of the worksheet is AIP. Great, that worked. So that's how to create a new workbook. Let's add some more data to our newly created workbook. Okay, let's delete the file and we'll recreate it. We will copy up to where we created our worksheet and paste. Then let's create a for loop where we add some numbers to it, where the numbers represent the location of that cell. So let's go 10 rows of data in a for loop. So up to 11 and increment I by 1. In another for loop, a J will represent our columns, where I represent our rows. We will have just 5 columns. Okay, let's call our worksheet. Earlier, we referenced the location by calling worksheet.cells.item with the numerical value of the column and row. This time, we will do it a longer way. So, columns dot items, where our column will be J and our rows will be I. And the cell value will literally be the location. So I comma J. So cell A1 will be 1 comma 1, A2 will be 2 comma 1, A3 will be 3 comma 1, and so on. And then let's save the workbook and close and quit Excel. Same code as before. So what I have highlighted here will launch the Excel application, add our worksheet, and call it AIP. Will create two for loops that will create 5 columns and 10 rows, and just write the cell location in each cell. We will save it as data2, close our workbook, and then quit Excel. So if we run this, and it completed, we have our new file. If we open it up, we can see data is written to it, 10 rows, 5 columns, with each cell containing the numerical value of that cell location. Okay, let's look at merging cells now. We're going to work with the same file that we just created. So I'm just going to copy this line of code. And our file is called data2 now. And our worksheet is called AIP. So if we look at our document, let's merge A1 to E1, just our first row of data. So we can do that by, first let's call that variable merge cells equals, and call our Excel worksheet dot range, and we're going to reference the range by A1 to E1. Oops. Then we're going to select that merge cells dot select. Then we're going to say merge cells dot merge cells, and that's going to be equal to true. So we're going to set our range in our Excel worksheet to be A1 to E1. We're going to select that range, And then we're going to call merge cells and set it to true. So if we go ahead and actually, I'm going to close it first. Let's close that as well. And we get this prompt here that says merging cells only keeps the upper left value and discards other values. So it won't keep all the data, it's just going to keep the data in A1 and delete everything else as it performs the merge. We hit OK, and essentially let's save it. I'm just going to use the same line here, and let's open it up to see how it looks. Read only. Okay, so all our other values were erased, and we can see A1 to E1 is now one cell, and it only contains the value that was in A1. Great. So let's change A1 to read title. And we do that by referencing our worksheet. Cells. Item 1, 1. And we make that title. If I run that, and then save it. And let's see how it looks. Right, so A1 now is title. Let's make it look a bit better. So let's do some formatting to it. And I already have some formatted. So essentially, we're going to center it and just change the font style, make it bold, change the color, etc. So to center it, we're going to call Excel worksheet.cells, focusing on our A1 cell, dot horizontal alignment, and that's going to be minus 4108. And this is just a value that's predefined with PowerShell and Excel. We're going to set the font size to 18. We're going to bold it. We're going to change the font type to Cambria and alter the colors. So let's run this. And save it. Let's see how it looks. Read only. We have title is now centered. It's in blue font. It's in a different font style, etc. Now let's look at inserting a row and deleting a row. We're going to have a variable called Excel shift down. and this will hold the value of negative 4121. Now, the minus 4121 is a number represented by the Excel constant Excel shift down, which is valid for the insert method. It's a number that PowerShell and Excel uses in conjunction. Let's call our object range variable, and it will be equal to our Excel object, our range, which is our A1 cell, and we will do the entire row. So essentially, this is the entire row for A1. And this line will actually do the insertion. This will reference that range, and then we call that value of minus 4121 through the Excel shift down variable. Let's run this and save our workbook. As you can see, our top row got inserted as title is now row 2. And that's how you insert a row. So how would we delete a row? So similar to the insertion, we call a delete. Our object range will still be the entire row, but let's run it again because our A1 range is now a new range after the insertion. And then run the delete and save it. And our new row is now deleted and back to how it originally was. Okay, let's look at our data. Now let's say we want to get the average of these columns. So we will add the two numbers separated by the comma together and then average them out. So we will add up all of the numbers separately and get the average and put that answer in row 11. How will we do that? So we will need to use nested for loops. In our first for loop, we will loop over the columns. So I is equal to 1. I will be less than our columns count. And we'll increment I with each iteration. So after we cycle through the rows, we will cycle across each column. Now let's do the rows. We will start J at 2. J is less than or equal to our number of rows, which is our use range rows.count. And we increment J. Now we're starting J from 2 because our data actually starts at row 2 to row 10. And then we'll add up all the numbers and average them out. We will put the numbers in an array to make getting the average easier. So let's initialize an array before we cycle through the rows. Our cell will hold the data in each cell. So we specify the column and row by using our variables I and j. And specify .text to get the value in that cell. Now our data variable will be equal to the value in our cell, but we will split it on the comma because we want to separate them. So we will add both values to our array. Data 0 will be everything to the left of the comma, and data 1 will be everything to the right of the comma. So now our Excel worksheet new cell will equal to the average. So let's sum up our values and get the average. And there's an easy way to do this using the array. We get the average of the values in the array by piping out the array and measure object for the average. So we assign that to our new cell of I and J. So let's run this and see what it does. And save it. So that does not look correct. Our values are staggered and not static to row 11. That's because our j is not static and being incremented. So instead of using the j variable, let's manually set it to 11. Let's delete that data. We'll change this value to 11 because it's now going to be static. Okay. We'll have to set our workbook again. And then rerun our code and save it. And now that looks better. So we just manually set a target cell to always be row 11. Alright, so that will wrap up this video. It was a long one. Hopefully this can be a starting point for you in how to automate Excel using PowerShell. So you know how to open up a file, create a new file, read cell data, and write cell data. I hope you found this video useful, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. This has been brought to you by AIP Solutions.